Hey guys, good afternoon. We are days away from Halloween. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited for all the candy in moderation, of course. I'm also super excited to have our special guest today, Letitia Johnson. She's a prosperity coach who helps and teaches women how to have a better relationship with their money and create generational wealth. She's a best-selling author, international speaker, and creator of Wealth and Wellness Network, leading the charge in changing communities through financial literacy. So thank you, Letitia, for joining us today.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me, Karen.
Now, for those who are watching, I'd love for you to share with us who you are, and if you can also share with us some common mistakes women are making when it comes to money.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Letitia Johnson, as Karen mentioned, and I'm a prosperity coach. And what does that mean? In other words, for layman's terms, I help you get your money right. Pretty much, that's it.
Yeah.
And I actually started not on this journey. I was actually in broadcasting. I went to school at Temple University, go Owls, in Philadelphia, and I got my bachelor's degree in broadcasting. And I started working with large broadcasting companies such as CNN News, CBS Corporation, and I was moving up the corporate ladder. And guess what? I was making money, but I didn't know what to do with it. So, along my professional journey, I actually started to learn through mistakes how money works. And so I actually started seeking advice. I got connected with some excellent mentors, those that had sustainable businesses, millionaires, etc. And I had the distinct pleasure to learn from them and start to really realize that there was this gap, especially for us ladies. So I started to do my own personal finance journey. I ended up getting some licensing in the field, and that's why I'm here today. Now, speaking of some mistakes that I was making, that's actually true for most women. So one is we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Talking about money is very cliche, and for us women, just some quick studies. Less than 10% of women even invest. Before most women are starting to become the breadwinners and responsible for all the money in their household. But unfortunately, it has been kind of taboo to talk about money. And for women, if we go back to the 40s and the 50s, we just started to really get into the workplace and into the job market. So we didn't necessarily learn or grow up around understanding how finances work, because we actually left that to, if we were married, to our significant other, or it wasn't something that really was talked about in the household. So number one is not having the discussion. The second part is, because we're not really having these open discussions, it's really taboo, so to speak, to actually go to a professional. So for example, when you want to lose weight, where do you go? You go to the gym, right? Or you seek out a personal trainer. When you want to actually start having a family, you usually invest into parenting, coaching, books, that sort of thing. But we're not really investing in our education when it comes to financial literacy. We're just not really doing that. So we're not seeking a professional, or we're not seeking a person like myself who can actually guide you in the right direction. So one, we're not talking about it. And two, we're not seeking the actual help that we need. And three, unfortunately, because we were not taught this in school, we make unnecessary mistakes. So I'll use myself as an example. When I went into college, I got super excited because what was happening? Everyone was offering me a credit card.
Yep.
So I'm like, wow, free money. But because I didn't know what to do with it, I ended up making the mistake that most people do, and that's get in debt in the wrong way. And actually, there's nothing wrong with debt, right? So to speak. Debt is supposed to be used. It's supposed to be used to utilize to build. And what do I mean by that? You use debt to actually build and invest in something that will make you profits. Well, I did the opposite. I do what most consumers do, and that's use debt to basically fill the gap of me not having money. And it actually made me have to work harder to get out of that rut. And then I had to start building wealth and saving. But I wasn't able to do that at first. I did everything backwards. So, definitely making sure that you utilize it to build. Again, you use debt to build the business. Why? Because that can help you reach profit, get profits, or you use that to invest in, real estate, because then you can get rental profits. So it's just a little bit of some mind shifts that, unfortunately, because we weren't taught in school, we have to seek the information for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think everyone goes through the same thing where they go to college and exactly what you said, you get a credit card and it's like, oh my God, I can buy everything. And then you get super excited and then you realize like, oh wait, parents aren't going to pay for this anymore, that kind of thing. And it's so true that when it comes to finances, this is something that a lot of people struggle with because it's not something that's taught in the homes of families, and it is not taught well because you always hear, I know my parents always say this, like, you have to save, you have to save, like, if for your business, if, with all the money that's coming in, like, you should save. And I was like, okay, yeah, but then it's just scratching the surface and no one really actually sits you down and be like, okay, this is what you should do, this is what you should invest in. And I think like that is definitely something that's missing, and I'm so glad to have you here to share like tips and everything for everyone. And especially with this year with so many people losing their jobs just from the pandemic, like what advice and any tips that you can share that they can implement at the moment while they're watching or listening right now on how to be better at like saving money or
Abs-
or be better with their money.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about getting the proper knowledge, because as you mentioned, we just do not know. We're not having those conversations in the households. And, unfortunately, if the generation before us was unfamiliar, we're either one or two things are going to happen. One, they're either not going to have the conversation, or two, they don't know. So if they have a lack of knowledge, how can they pass down the correct way to invest, to build, to save? It's impossible. So I would like to suggest, one step that you can take is, again, listening to programs like this that will give you some information, seeking a finance professional. And when I say finance professional, I don't mean, Joe next door who, might have had a bond, 50 years ago or 30 years ago, and now he's doing well. Maybe that worked for Joe, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work with you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a one size fit all. Or, talking to your favorite aunt. I know you love her and you respect her advice, but it's not a one size fit all. Everyone needs something that is tailored to their particular situation.
Yep.
And I would suggest, I actually just, I wrote a book called 5 Money Mistakes That Are Costing You a Fortune. Because how can you actually build and learn the mechanics of wealth if you haven't learned what you are doing that is causing you to distress? So
Yeah.
there's 5 money mistakes that are costing you a fortune. You can get it on Amazon. And it really goes over things such as money mindset, for example. Most people don't even realize that they have a money story, and how we spend, how we buy, all of our habits, our buying habits, our spending habits are connected to the story that we created for ourselves. Usually that's connected to some type of childhood experience or a previous experience. So I'll use myself as an example, if I may.
Of
Uh,
course. Yeah.
so, so for example, my grandfather, I loved him to pieces. And, my late grandfather, he used to work and come home every day around the same time. And my sister and I would literally stand on the porch waiting for him to get there because we knew what time he was getting off like clockwork. And we would stand there and give him, sing all these praises to him because we wanted to get at least $1 so we could go to what we called the corner store, which was a local store on in that neighborhood, so we could buy our snacks that we loved. And we did this every single weekday. And I remember him saying words like, money doesn't go on trees. I work hard for my money. Stop begging and stop always having your hands out, and hard, hard, hard. I work hard and hard, hard. So I grew up with this notion of working hard for my money.
Mhm.
So as I worked in corporate America, I actually, before corporate America, even when I was in college, I worked 2 and 3 jobs. Now, I was one of those college students that actually had some money, and I was happy about that. But I always thought that there had to be struggle to get money. So when I turned into going into business, I actually had to have a mind shift. And the reason is because I had this notion that in order for me to get the clients that I needed, in order for me to get in the circles that I needed to get in, it had to be hard. So it was always the struggle for me to get and keep clients. And I didn't realize it at first because it was just my everyday, and you work hard. The harder you work, the more money you make. No, that's not the truth. It actually, I had to make this mind shift. And as I started to do things like saying affirmations, like money flows to me easily, you know, money comes to me abundantly. That scarcity way of thinking, that poverty mindset, eventually began to cease. And I was able to start being in the right circles. I was able to attract the right clients. I was even able to get the knowledge that I needed without having that struggle, even when even when I got fulfilled, I didn't feel like exhausted. Like, oh wow, that was so hard. That took forever just to get. And things started to be a lot more smoother, and it just was so fluid. So we have to be aware of those limiting beliefs that we have, that we often create for ourselves, and for women especially, because there's such a emotional, money's energy, so there's emotion behind it. As women, because we're emotional creatures, we have to be even more mindful of what energy we're portraying, what energy are we putting out there, especially when it comes around our money. For instance, if you look at your checkbook and you're just like, oh, another bill, or if believe it or not, it's going your idea of money, or when you think about money, is going to be so depressing. It's going to be negative, so it really matters. So, and I would encourage everyone listening, do this exercise. It's basically writing down when you hear certain terms such as the word money, paycheck, um, investing, wealth, rich. When you hear those types of words, what is the first thing that comes to mind? What is this first memory that comes to mind? What connection or feeling do you get? Are you sweating? Are you shaking? Are you relaxed? Are you tense? And write that down and actually take note to what it is that's happening in your body and in your thoughts. And once you realize that, then you can actually change it. So again, just knowing our money story, and I strongly suggest that for those who want to start implementing, once you realize your money story, you start working on that, and you want to implement some things that can actually help you get into the flow of doing things better. Check out 5 money mistakes that are costing you a fortune, and you can download it now, the ebook, right from Amazon.
Wow, so many gems that you are dropping for us that people should definitely take a note of. Now, I just want to say for those who are joining, hello and welcome. If you have any questions for Letitia, drop them in the chat below. Now, to follow up with what you said about the scarcity mindset and also like poverty mindset, limiting beliefs, it's definitely really true because when you have that mindset, you can't really next level yourself because you're always stuck in this pattern of like I can't do better and you won't be able to have all these like abundance like energy that you talk about when you are in that mindset. So definitely having that shift is really powerful, and also writing down the words so that you can actually face it front on, because a lot of people, they just like to tuck it away in a corner and be like, I don't want to think about it, this is
Yes.
not something that I need to talk about or with my partner or anything right now, but it's definitely something that should be. And that leads to my next question. Now, for those who are in relationships, whether it is like long term or like partners or boyfriend girlfriend, what would you say to them as to like what's the opening question that they can ask their partner so that they can start talking about this? Because there's so many people that think that like, oh, I'll just ask this later when it comes up. But then that's one of the common mistakes that you talk about, is not talking about it. So
Mhm.
how would you say that they should start approaching this?
Absolutely. I love using the word open instead of interested. And because it's so easy to say, are you interested, and say no. But if you say you're open, then you're more so, it actually, it registers in your brain a little bit differently. So
Sure.
say for instance, I was looking to speak with my significant other, and this is the first time that we're really going to have deep dive into this conversation. I would say, honey, uh, are you open to speaking about our finances? And then you give that person the opportunity to say, because when you say open, it's different. It's like, I'm open minded, of course. And we're
That's
a
good.
team,
Yeah.
right? So once that you get a reply that's more free and open, and then mention, how do you feel about combining our finances? Because
Mhm.
this is the thing here. When you're in a relationship, the question is, are we going to combine our finances, or are we going to keep it separately? And I actually go through this a lot with couples, especially even those that are married, because some people separate it for whatever reason. People have a million and one reasons. But what's important to know is, if you plan on merging the two, then you have
Mhm.
to be on the same page. Because
Yeah.
in order to build wealth, you have to have a game plan. In order to have a game plan, those two individuals have to be on the same page. Because if not, it's going to be conflict of information. And then you're going to go about handling your finances in different ways. And that creates conflict. And actually, the number one reason why, and this statistic is specifically about marriages, but it applies to even just people that are living together, or are couples. The number one reason why most marriages fail is due to their finances.
Yep.
So
Yep.
these are conversations we need to have, but there's a way to approach it. Um, I would strongly suggest, don't say, let me see your money, because you never know the person's money story, and something
Hmm.
could be a trigger, right? So
Yeah.
just asking that, are you open to discussing it? Okay. Would you be open? Would you like to keep our finances separately, or should we plan to bring it together? And then that opens up the dialogue to keep going.
Yeah. So for everyone who's watching right now, listening, or even watching the replay, it's just that one question: would you be open to talking about the finances? Because it's so true when you approach it in a way of like, okay, let me see your statements, then it creates like a barrier and a wall, and
It's
you
like
don't want that.
intrusive. It's like
Yeah.
intrusive almost. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And then, so you talked about wealth, or you mentioned the word wealth, and I love how you like teach and better educate women on generational wealth. And so many of us are not thinking that far ahead, when now is actually the best time to do it. So, what does generational wealth mean to you? Because I know that you are a co-founder of a foundation, so I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. So generational wealth is being able to pass down something from generations to come. I call it legacy money. You ever heard of those family foundations, or if you know of a family where they call it sometimes long money, quote
Hmm.
unquote, basically is when you're able to leave something for your children, or be able to set up something in place for your family. God forbid something happens to you and you move on. We all have an extinction date, but we just don't know when that is. And I know we don't like to talk about it, but it's the truth, right? So speaking of my foundation, it's a nonprofit organization called Less Privileged Ghana Foundation, and what we do as we provide resources for women and youth in Ghana, which is in West Africa, in the areas of education and health. And we've been able to do a number of things, create health clinics. We're actually building a very large state-of-the-art community center in the central region. It's going to be the first of its kind in the West African hemisphere. And we're going to be teaching technical skills for those individuals in that area, or even in that country, to be able to learn the skills that they need, so that way they can provide for their families. And then there's a program specifically for women that will teach them how to take the skills that they already utilize every day, but turn it into sustainable businesses. So then that way they can have something to pass down to their family. So then that way each generation isn't starting over. Because think about it, right?
I love that. Yeah.
Think about it. What if, like, let me use myself as an example. I'll go back to the credit cards, right? That I discussed earlier. How super excited I was about the credit cards, and I'm just swiping, 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 and then, I had to get some college loans as well. But if my parents were in a position, or had thought about prior to setting up something for me, so then that way I didn't have to start over, I could have avoided all of that debt that I got in,
Hmm.
because one, I didn't know what I was doing. Two, I was just I was just clueless. And then three, I would have had that security blanket. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
why not just, and I know it's very tough when you're just looking at, when you're living paycheck to paycheck. It's very difficult to think about, how can I provide for my child? But a little goes a long way. You know, it's really taking those small steps, implementing them over time, and before you know it, you will be able to have what I call the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for your son, your daughter, and grandchildren, etc.
Wow. I think that is amazing story. It actually reminds me of one where there was a woman. She moved out on her own and with her baby, and every day she would start saving. And it's exactly what you said. Like, a little goes a long way, and she would just make small deposits every single day
Yeah.
to the bank, and what it is for. And so, to the point that the tellers at the bank knew who she was. And
Wow.
then one day, like, she wasn't even checking her bank account. And the next thing you know, she already saved like $60,000. And that is
Wow.
amazing, because in the beginning, she had no idea on like how to save, on what to do. She just know that she had a goal. And so she, like you said, baby steps. Yeah,
Exactly. And
definitely.
and the thing is, it's all about getting started. I'll use this for example, because COVID is evident, right? It's everywhere. I
Mhm.
know we're tired of hearing that term, but it's here, right? So how many of you out there have thought about, you know, creating an additional source of income, or starting that business, or taking that hobby and just letting all your friends and family know about it? Maybe a couple years ago, or even a couple months ago. And now COVID has come, and you're like, wow, if only I had gotten started then. If only I had, right? Because now that dependency on that one source, right, that you initially had, for most people, is is gone, right?
Mhm.
So the reason why I said that is because it you just have to get started. That's it. Just take a step in the right direction. We're going to do some type of habit, right? We all have habits. They're either good or bad. So do you want to make habits in the wrong direction, doing what you've been doing and it's gotten you nowhere? Or do you take a step in the right direction? And before you know it, 5 years go by, like even like the story you just mentioned, and you're like, wow, look what I've been able to create.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, speaking about like bad habits, like what would you say are some everyday challenges you face as a prosperity coach when you work with your clients? Did anything about going down this path surprise you?
Yes. So, and are you saying for me in particular, or some of the things that I'm finding out by working with my clients?
Both. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with the clients. So, unfortunately, for most people, knowing your numbers is it's like a foreign, it's very foreign. So what I mean by knowing your numbers is most people have no idea how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. And
Hmm.
that's the first step. And I know most of us cannot stand the B word, and I'm not talking about that B word. I'm talking about budget, right? We
Hmm.
hear that word, and sometimes it makes most of us cringe. It's like, oh, I feel so constrained, and oh, it's limiting. Oh, I don't. But so change. Going back to that mindset, change the story in your head, or change the word. I call it the me plan. So basically, having a budget or me plan or whatever you want to call it, it helps you be able to start to manage your money well, and
Hmm.
then you can start to begin that legacy, right? So knowing your numbers, I have found to be the number one issue when coming to me. Obviously, it takes them a step to get to me because most people don't want to have the conversation. But once they do get to me and we're sitting down, the first thing I'm like, okay, what's your monthly expenses? And most people can't tell you. They may know how much money they have coming in if they have a salary or
Hmm.
a stable pay, a stable paycheck, but how much money is going out? How much do you spend on A? How much do you spend on B? How much do you spend on C? Most people have no idea. So that would be the first thing, especially right now. Holiday season is going to be coming
Yep.
really, really soon. And it's like spend, spend, spend. And even with COVID, at the end of the day, that's kind of something we're conditioned to do. So I don't want to, I know most people probably like, oh, with COVID, not so much. We're conditioned to do that. So just be mindful of what it is that you're spending, and create a budget for yourself, or a savings plan for yourself, whatever you want to call it, criteria for yourself. And then stick with that. Discipline yourself, right?
Hmm.
And, disciplining can help. You can actually get better with disciplining yourself when you have accountability, hence a mentor or a coach, or, an advisor.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been seeing. And for myself, what's difficult for me is being able to not emotionally get attached, right? Because one, I want to help everyone, but when it comes to your money, it's something. Money's energy, so there's emotion with it. But we have to be very, very logical when it comes to how we handle our money. So all of us need to be logical. And then for me, because I want to help everyone, it's so easy for me to get emotionally involved,
Yep.
and,
Yep.
and want to be the hero of everyone and be sad. But I have to make sure that I stay logical, because we have to handle this business, make sure it gets done. And then it's also for us to do our best to detach our emotions, so then that way we can become disciplined and do what we need to do, so that way we can build that wealth.
Yeah. Those are like, that's definitely very true because yes, when it comes to money, it is an emotional topic and it can bring a lot of like up and down roller coaster for
Right.
some people. And what would you say are like some of the things that you enjoy most in working with your clients, what you look forward to? Because on the flip side, even though there are like bad habits that that you're trying to help them get out of, like what would you say that you enjoy most in working with your clients?
I love the transformation. The transformation, and the reason why I say transformation, most people may not think of, getting a good money plan as a transformation, but it really is,
Mm-hmm.
because our money is our livelihood. It really is. It's Think of it as this, like, I'll go back to the health aspect. When you work out, you hate getting up at 6 a.m. for those workouts. There's times where you don't feel like it. There's times where your personal trainer is just like yelling at you, and you're like, I can't even take the sound of his or her voice. But when you look in that mirror, or when you are able to say no to that snack, or when you actually wake up and you don't have those aches and pains, you're proud of yourself. There's the transformation. And I feel the same way when I'm able to take someone from struggling to stability to abundance.
Yeah.
It's so liberating for me. And that's why I do what I do, is because I really want to help bring out the best in people and help them transform. And how can I do that is through their livelihood, because that touches every area of their life.
I love that. I love that. And then for those who are interested, like what is your preferred way for them to communicate with you, to get in touch with you, to learn more?
Absolutely. So very simple. You can go to my website at letitiajohnson.com. That's LATEISHA Johnson.com. And you can learn more about what I have going on, events, etc. And for ladies, I'm a little biased because I'm a I'm a lady myself.
That's all good. That's all
But
good.
but if you would like to learn more about how you can get a better abundant mindset, if you would like some tips of the trade and learn how you can start building wealth and creating that generational wealth and legacy for your family, I actually have a free resource specifically for professional women at wealthandwellnessnetwork.com. Again, that's wealthandwellnessnetwork.com. This it's an app that was created specifically for you. So then that way, money doesn't have to be one of those taboo topics. Learning about how do you get started, how do you invest, how do you create a budget that works for you, how do you create a financial game plan, the how-tos are there, and it's a free resource for you. So definitely check out wealthandwellnessnetwork.com, and it's free, and you get to meet other women professionals from all over the globe, so then that way you can network as well.
I love that. Thank you. All right. So you heard it from Letitia. If you're interested in learning more about what she's up to and also even learning more about the app, then definitely go to wealthandwellnessnetwork.com. And if you want to learn more about Letitia herself, again, and what she's up to, then go to letitiajohnson.com. I'm going to be dropping the links for you guys right here. Hold on here.
And also on my site, you'll see it. If anyone wanted to schedule a complimentary coaching session with me, you'll see the information on my website. I would be more than happy to sit down with you to see how I might be able to put you in the right direction. Because remember, it's not a one size fit all.
Exactly, exactly. And then you want to friend Letitia? She's on Facebook, Letitia Johnson, and also her Instagram handle. Follow her there at Letitia Johnson _. And also, if you have any questions when it comes to sending an email, you can send an email to her at info@letitiajohnson.com. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. This was so much fun. And guys, definitely just make sure that you get started. Take action, whatever that is, just one step. And
Yeah.
I appreciate being a part of the show. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, guys, have a great week ahead.